Let's talk about the Time80 Reforged. The Time80 is a TKO keyboard by Fox Labs Studios. They are famous for other boards such as the Leaf 60, the Key 65, and the Leaf 80. The Time80 Reforged is actually a second run of this keyboard, which originally ran under the name the Time80 in 2017. The group buy for the Time80 Reforged ran in September of 2020 and was delivered in April of 2021. Standard kits sold for $480 with extra PCB, plate, and weight options available as well. Overall, there were roughly 1,400 units sold of the Time80 Reforged according to their GitHub site. This keyboard case was available in standard N1 keyless layouts and were available in either an aluminum or matte clear polycarbonate material. For the case itself, I was not able to find an exact typing angle that it provides, but I can say from personal use that it's sitting at a very comfortable height for my preference at least. The biggest selling feature of this keyboard is 100% its butt. The gorgeous clock weight is the namesake of this beautiful keyboard. There's just so many details engraved into the clock, it's a real shame the board has to sit face down on your desk. For the unboxing experience of the Time80, it is certainly one of the cleaner packaging designs that I've seen since entering this hobby. It starts with the yellow sleeve showing the Time80 Reforged printed on it. When you slide it off, you're met with a gray box featuring the same printing. You have to shimmy a little bit to get the box off due to the tight tolerances. Once you remove the lid and the first piece of foam, you're greeted with a little bag of hardware, a Fox Labs branded suede bag, and below that, the real prize, the Time80 Reforged case. For my personal unit, I went with the anodized silver case and gold weight. Inside of the suede bag are all the other components that are needed for the build. Mine included the split aluminum plate, we'll go into that more later, the PCB, rubber foam that fits between the plate and PCB, and additional hardware all inside some very nice Fox Labs branded matte finish plastic bags. I am a really big fan of these bags. Anyways, let's talk about the case. The Time80 Reforged is much lighter than expected, at least with the aluminum clock weight that is. Coming in at less than 3 pounds, I was very surprised at how light it really is. The board has 2 accent pieces at the top and bottom which peek out when sitting at your desk. It is definitely an appreciated aesthetic touch. The case is held together by 8 hex screws all located on the back. After unscrewing them, the bottom of the board is free and you can now access the 2 badges that show on the front of the board. You unscrew one and you are greeted with the title of the keyboard. Unscrew the other and you will find the badge that showcases the single adjustable RGB LED that shines through to the top of the board. Now for the main focus of this board. The clock weight on the butt is insanely detailed and is hidden behind tempered glass to keep it safe. To the left and right of the weight, there are 2 badges. On the left, Time80 Reforged is engraved. On the right, you have Designed by Fox Lab. When you flip it over, you will see Time 2020 Designed by Fox Lab inscribed on the back of the clock weight. Taking the weight out is as easy as unscrewing the 4 screws. Just be careful, of course, not to drop the weight. Seeing the clock weight up close, you can really see all the details that are put into this board. I believe you can actually change the time if you would like by taking out the screws on the back of the weight, but I was too much of a coward to try if we're being completely honest with ourselves. Now that we've gone over the case, let's go over the components just a little more. The most interesting aspect of this build process for me has to be its split plate. This is the first time I've seen anything like this in the custom keyboard world. There may have been another board that uses this, but it's a first for me. After I actually built it, I can't say I noticed any real difference in flex or typing from a standard aluminum plate, but it did leave a small gap between each plate, which was satisfying at the very least. The PCB is USB-C and is black, featuring Fox and Time branding on the front. There is an included rubber plate foam that is completely optional if you would choose to use so. I've used foams before, but this is the first one that I've ever seen made out of rubber. I'm personally a fan of the muted sound plate foams provide, so I'll for sure be adding this to my build. To start putting this board together, you should place some switches across both plates and solder them down. I had to obviously be sure to place switches along the edges of both plates to make sure everything was even. Snapping in the switches did prove to be a little difficult because of the rubber plate foam. Due to its minor shrinkage, it usually leaked into the switch spots, so you may have to use tweezers to lightly push them out of the way before getting your switch to fit in well. You really want to be sure that both plates are even and that all switches are fully snapped into place and not getting caught on the plate rubber. Once you're all set, get everything soldered into place, screw your PCB into the top portion of the Time80, then slot in the bottom case, add on the accent pieces, and reintroduce the 8 screws. For my personal build, I chose to use H1 linear switches with their stock 78 gram springs. I looped the housing and stems with Krytox 205 grade 0, the springs with GPL 105 oil, and filmed them with TX .125 thin films. For keycaps, I decided to outfit this board with GMK Botanical, a clean keycap set for a clean keyboard. I also set the LED to match with GMK Botanical because why not? Here's a typing test to give an idea of how this build can sound, but as always, take every sound test with a grain of salt. So now for the almighty question, how do I feel about this board? Aesthetically speaking, this board is without a doubt my favorite if we are judging purely on looks. From a typing experience, I don't really have any complaints. It feels a bit more stiff than I'm used to, but I don't mind it at all. From a sound perspective, I have nothing to really complain about either. I like the sound of it, and I'm curious to see how other switches would go in this board, but I need to get my hands on another PCB and plate before I can do any of that. To give my final thoughts on the Time80 Reforged, it is probably my favorite build to date, being the aesthetic fiend that I am. I love the clack from the H1s in this and have been using it almost non-stop for several weeks now. It's an absolute masterpiece of a case, and I just can't get over how incredible the butt looks. The LED on top adds a nice bit of flair, and you can attempt to make it match with any keycap sets by messing with the RGB settings. This board will certainly be a daily driver for a while, and I wouldn't be mad if Fox Labs would drop some extra plates and PCBs so I can try out some other options. Cheers, my friends.